Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody for joining today's legal Q&A, which has a specific topic about immigration under the Biden administration. So we'll be going over specifically things that happens at the beginning of the year under this new administration, different changes to immigration policies. But then we will be talking specifically about these, and we have some information to share. But if you or anybody else has any other questions about anything else, feel free to also ask. And yeah, like we can begin. Sorry, I don't think I introduced myself. My name is Leslie Hernandez. I am an immigration paralegal with IIBA, the Immigration Institute of the Bay Area, which is a legal service provider for City College, working alongside with City Dream and Jacqueline and Janice Martinez. Here I have my colleague Justin joining me, and then Jacqueline as well. I'm not sure, Jacqueline, if you wanted to quickly introduce yourself and City Dream.
Yes, thank you, Leslie. Hi, everybody. Like Leslie mentioned, my name is Jacqueline Yanez Martinez. I am the coordinator of City Dream. So City Dream is a resource center for undocumented students and anyone affected by immigration status here at CCSF. And we have a variety of resources, one of them being the support of Leslie and Justin with the legal services. We also have an academic counselor, a financial aid specialist, and different resources like scholarship, food cards, grants. We could also help you find outside scholarships for the students who want to get a little bit more funding. And we also do different workshops like this one. And we could also connect you with other departments here at CCSF. I'm gonna put my information on the chat, so if anyone wants to reach out and ask questions, make an appointment. We also are hoping to get a lot more resources during the fall semester. So if you want to be included in our communication list, let us know. Again, I'm gonna put my information, so you could either email me. I'm also gonna put a link to our website, so you could also follow us on social media. That's another way to stay updated with what's going on with in the center and with updates on immigration topics and anything like that.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for all the information and the work that you do for students. I really appreciate everything that you do in this program and for the students at your school. We'll begin right now, but then if anybody also has like any questions like throughout what we're talking about, but then also any other questions in general, immigration related questions, feel free to put them in the chat box or in the Q&A box at any time, and we will be monitoring both. And it could be in English or in Spanish. The information we'll be showing you is in English, but feel free to ask your questions in Spanish and we can respond in Spanish as well. So without further ado, let's begin. Yes, so this is a brief summary about what we will be talking about today. We'll be introducing IIBA, our services for City College. We'll also be talking about the recent immigration updates, especially the recent court decision regarding DACA. And then we'll overview the first few days of the Biden administration, just so you kind of remember what some of the earlier changes earlier on in when they took over. And then we'll also be discussing the status of public charge. And then we'll be talking about TPS. And then lastly, the naturalization civics test as well that had a recent change in this administration. And like I said, if you have any questions throughout when we're talking, feel free to enter them at any time in the chat. So who is IIBA? We basically, we were wondering like who is the service provider that I will be talking to in case like, you have an immigration related questions. We are an immigration legal nonprofit providing high quality, affordable immigration legal services in the San Francisco Bay Area since 1918. So our organization has been around for many, many years. And so we are definitely very well founded in the San Francisco Bay Area. We specialize in various service areas, but for example, some of them are naturalization, which is the process to become a U.S. citizen, new visa applications when people have been victims of serious crimes, family petitions, DACAs, TPS and green card renewal and replacement. And then we also do some limited representation in deportation matters. We have 7 offices throughout the San Francisco Bay Area, for example, in San Francisco, Redwood City, Oakland, Fremont, Brentwood, Napa, and Sonoma. Me and Justin are based out of the San Francisco office. And so we are based out of that office, and we're working with City College. And if you have any other questions, or you're more curious about like who is IIBA, feel free to visit our website at www.iibaarea.org. And I'll be putting all this information in the chat shortly. But yeah, and so we are IIBA, and we are the select nonprofit that was chosen to provide free immigration consultations and services for students, staff, and faculty at City College. We work with various other community college campuses, but specifically City College is one of them. And then we basically are offering these amazing, great services completely free to students, staff, and faculty. And so there's more information on the flyer about specifically like the times that we're available, but basically anytime that you have an immigration related question or situation, if you or somebody that you know that's also a student, staff, or faculty have an immigration question or situation, please feel free to refer them to us, and we'll be more than happy to talk with them. And you can text us, call us at the direct number that's on the screen. Basically are available through many various methods to be able to talk with you. And I want to reiterate that all the information that is being told to us is kept completely confidential. We won't be sharing it with anybody else. It just stays within our office and the program. And so definitely want to help if you are seeking to see if you're eligible for any immigration relief. We definitely want to, you can definitely talk to us to see if you're eligible for anything. And yeah, and part of our service is also, creating these events where we give information and outreach to the community on campus. And so we definitely want to keep on having these events, and we hold these events with Jacqueline like every month to keep on informing the community on campus about the immigration updates. And so we definitely want to be a resource, not only like legal, but also like information about immigration policy. And so, yeah, so we will go into the content of our presentation, and Justin's going to walk us through some of these recent immigration updates that have happening in the last basically few weeks.
Great. Thanks so much, Leslie. Yeah, so I'm Justin Skinner. I'm an immigration attorney, and Leslie and I are the team at IIBA that's working with City College and offering free consultations and free legal services. And we've really enjoyed our collaboration with Jacqueline and City Dream. So we're thrilled to be continuing to offer these services, and we look forward to at some point being able to be on campus whenever that's possible. So as Leslie mentioned, don't hesitate to ask any questions in the chat or the Q&A. She's posting her contact information to call or text if you want to set up a consultation with us. And so let's just start with what's on the screen right there. So the court decision from a judge in Texas last Friday, about 6 days ago, it didn't end DACA. What it did is it meant that for right now, at least, immigration cannot approve any new DACA applications, initial DACA applications. However, as you can see in the second bullet point, immigration can still accept DACA applications. So let's say you've already applied for DACA and your case is with USCIS, they're basically just going to hold on to it right now and see what happens. They're not going to deny it. They're not going to approve it. It's just going to be kind of on hold. And there's a few different things that might happen. And we'll kind of go into more details about that. But in essence, or let's say you're about to send in a first time, or you'd like us to help you apply for DACA for the first time. We're still happy to do that with you if you'd like to move forward. You just need to know that it's not going to get approved right now, but we hope that some good changes will come. And so if someone decides to apply and they're already in the queue waiting to have their application reviewed, then they could still kind of make some forward progress now. And you'll see in the third and fourth bullet points, another big announcement was that there's been a long wait list for U visas up to about 5 years now. And in a big positive recent change, the immigration has said that work permits can be given to people earlier in the process if they have what looks like a legitimate U visa case. So doesn't mean they'll necessarily have their case approved at the end of their long wait, but they can get work permits sooner in the process if they have a legitimate application. So And that Leslie's included the link at the bottom there that kind of gives it a more detailed description of that new policy. But that's a positive change that's come out very recently. So here is a statement that was posted on Monday on the immigration website. And if you go to the second paragraph from the top, you'll see that says anyone who's had DACA before can continue to have DACA and is eligible to renew. So if you or someone you know has DACA and it's time to renew pretty soon, you can still move forward with that process just like before. So this decision doesn't really impact you. And if someone already has DACA and wants to apply for advanced parole to travel outside of the US, that is still also an option. There had been some uncertainty over the past 4 or 5 days about that, but the short answer is you can still request travel permission if you have DACA through the advanced parole application process. And if you look towards the end of the final paragraph there, it says that immigration will comply with the court order. And then it goes on to say that they're going to work on publishing a notice of proposed rulemaking designed to strengthen and fortify DACA. What that means is that they're looking into a way to continue DACA in a way that might stand up against court challenges like the one that just happened in Texas. So the way I see it, there are several different ways that DACA could continue to move forward through a new rule put out by immigration, possibly through an appeal on the current court case from Texas. That might, if there's a way to kind of put on hold this decision to not approve new applications through an appeal, that could happen. And the other way would be through congressional action. And if Congress is able to pass their big budget bill in the fall, in the next few months, and include some DREAM Act type language in that budget bill, we might be able to get something positive for Dreamers and for TPS recipients as well. So there's kind of 3 different tracks through kind of the bureaucratic rulemaking process with immigration, through the current lawsuit and the appeal process for the lawsuit, and then also through congressional action. So if you or someone you think might be impacted by trying to get DACA for the first time or thinking about applying, don't hesitate to reach out to Leslie through her email address or phone number by calling or by texting, because we could kind of stay in touch with you and you could check in with us and say, what's the latest, what's happened in the last month since I attended your presentation. So don't be shy about reaching out to us. And again, the services are free, our legal services, and your information is kept confidential. We don't share your information with City College or with anyone else. We keep it just between Leslie and me within our nonprofit organization, IIBA.
Great. Thank you, Justin, for that information. And I'll reiterate what he emphasized, that if you or anybody that you know, and there's students, staff, or faculty, or even a family member that you know that has questions, don't feel free to refer them to us. And then, especially regarding DACA, if you have any questions, especially during this uncertain time, please feel free to have them reach out, and we'll be happy to provide information and help in any way that we can.
Okay, then as Leslie mentioned earlier, here's just a quick overview of some changes that were announced right at the beginning of the Biden administration, right after President Biden was sworn into office in January. So there were several different travel bans targeting certain countries that were repealed. There were new enforcement policies and priorities put into place. In other words, trying to de-emphasize the criminalization of immigrants and trying to focus really on only a very small number of immigrants who might have serious criminal histories or repeated deportation orders or be considered to be a threat to national security. So it's something that's more pro-immigrant and more targeted on if someone really has a serious criminal history, they should be the focus of immigration enforcement, much more so than the vast majority of people who have no criminal history and might be undocumented in the United States. The new administration stopped working on the construction of a border wall along the US-Mexican border. A program that's meant to help Liberian citizens was restored, called DED. President Biden put out a statement announcing an intention to preserve and fortify protections for Dreamers. The substance of that has not happened yet, but that's where we're going to hopefully see some progress in the next month or two. Again, maybe through congressional action by the US Congress, or maybe through the courts, or maybe from immigration itself proposing a new rule that addresses some of the things that the judge in Texas said were wrong with DACA. The immigration also suspended the Remain in Mexico program, where folks who were trying to apply for asylum in the US were not allowed to enter the US and had to wait for their court hearings in Mexico. So that's been suspended. And also the NTA memo, there was a change to that. So that's a notice to appear memo. So basically the way in which someone might be put into immigration court proceedings, deportation proceedings, that guidance was changed as well. So while we still haven't seen some of the biggest changes, I mean, I think we would obviously love to see a comprehensive immigration reform bill from Congress that would provide a pathway to citizenship for millions of people, and many other changes we'd like to see. So these are some positive changes that happened right at the beginning of the administration, and we're still waiting, hopefully, and then more have come since these that are listed on the slide, but we're hoping for bigger and broader changes ahead. And there's some promising things that have happened so far, but we want to see much more. And here's another change that's a very positive one, is public charge. So under the previous presidential administration, the government, the immigration tried to make it basically harder for low-income people to obtain their green cards. And when you hear public charge, it's really it mostly applies to folks who are trying to apply for a green card through a family member. And so the rule that was being fought over in the courts has been withdrawn. And what it means is immigration's gone back to a rule from 22 years ago, which is much less punitive and much more specific. And so it makes it easier for someone who's low income and wants to apply for their green card through a family member to get that green card and not have their low income status be held against them. And so what we list on the slide here is, some of the details regarding that, but certain things are not going to be held against someone when deciding whether or not to, be considered a public charge. And so, if you or someone might be going through that process of applying for a green card, feel free to put them in touch with us, because I think what's happened with that public charge rule that was put out by the previous presidential administration, it didn't affect as many people as you might have thought. And we felt that it might have been kind of a cynical decision to try and discourage immigrants from applying for public benefits that immigrants might be eligible for. And so, the good news is, one, that bad rule has been withdrawn. It's not in place anymore. But two, it also, the rule, even the better version of the rule from 1999, it impacts or affects a lot fewer people than you might think. So, but again, if you or anyone has questions about public charge and how it works, we'd be more than happy to discuss it with you. And you can reach out, through the contact info that's in the chat from Leslie. Yeah, and here's a little more detail about public charge. So, as you see on the left side of the slide, public charge is someone who's likely to become primarily dependent on the government for subsistence. And so, there's kind of a rundown of which benefits count or don't count. And in general, if you're considering applying for a public benefit, the main advice I would give to you is be honest with the county benefits agency about your current legal status. So if you go to the agency and say, well, I'm undocumented, but my children are US citizens, or I'm undocumented, but my spouse has his or her green card or is a US citizen, is just always be honest with the benefits agencies, and they can help you navigate what you may or may not be eligible for. And it can be pretty confusing because there are federal benefits, there are state benefits, and there might be more benefits out there for which you are eligible than you realize. But the main thing is just to not say anything that's not true, because that could come back to be a problem later in an immigration process. If, for example, you claim to be a US citizen to get a benefit and immigration finds out about it, that could be an obstacle to getting a green card in the future. So I think we don't have to dwell too much on those details. But yeah, on this next slide here, you'll see that, for example, at the top left, use of public benefits by family members does not count towards the public charge assessment. So very often there might be an undocumented parent who's got multiple US citizen children who are eligible for benefits as US citizens. So it's not necessarily that that's going to harm the parent, as long as that parent is being honest about their legal status when they're in touch with the county benefits agency. And then the second bullet point there, you see no one factor, not even an applicant's use of public benefits that do count for public charge, automatically means you're likely to become a public charge. Your immigration is meant to look at the totality of the circumstances. And also, comes up a lot too at the bottom bullet point on the left. Earned benefits do not count. In other words, if you have unemployment insurance, or you have a pension from your job for many years, something that is you're receiving based on your work or in your service to our country, that is not counted in the public charge analysis. And then as you see on the right side of the slide, the form that's used to evaluate whether someone will become a public charge and having a sponsor, like a family member, is called the I-864 form. And that's where we get into a lot of the details around public charge. And so again, I mean, if this is a process that you are going through or someone you know might be going through, we're more than happy to kind of look at all the particular details of your situation and help you figure out whether this could be something that would affect you or not.
Great. Thank you, Justin, for this information on public charge. And we'll be moving on to our next topic, which is TPS. But if anybody has any other questions, you can ask at any time through the Q&A, the chat box. And if it's not related to the topics that we're talking about, any immigration related questions are welcomed at this time, at any time throughout the presentation. So I'll be going into some of the changes into TPS, which is temporary protected status. But before we go into those changes, I wanted to give a brief summary about, what is TPS? And TPS is a form of temporary immigration relief that is available to people from very specific countries designated by immigration by the Department of Homeland Security. And once a country is designated for TPS, the nationals from that country who are already living in the United States may apply for TPS. And after an individual is granted TPS, after they get that status, then the recipient can re-register and maintain their TPS status as long as the designation of the country continues. And so an individual who has TPS has many benefits. For example, they're protected from removal, they're eligible for a work permit, and they may also request permission to travel abroad under advanced parole, depending on their situation in which they need to travel. And then some TPS recipients can adjust their status and obtain permanent residency if they have a family member who can petition for them. It varies, and I know there's like certain rules that changed recently, but if you or anybody is interested in applying for TPS or already has TPS, feel free to refer them to us, and we can talk in more details about what exactly are their options, their immigration legal options to move forward. And then some also here are some general TPS requirements. Main requirement is being a national of that country that is designated for TPS. And then you have to file during the open initial registration period. It is a very specific couple of months that people have to register for TPS for the very first time, or in some cases that we're going to talk about in the next slide is they open the registration again, and people who have never had TPS before can now apply. But once again, it's for very specific countries. And so they've also had to be, meet the certain requirements of being continuously physically present on the dates that are in their requirements for each specific country. And so they have to meet those specific dates and requirements. And then people who are not eligible for TPS are those who have been convicted of felony or 2 or more misdemeanors in the United States that are found inadmissible under other possible immigration grounds, and or are subject to any mandatory bars to asylum, and fail to meet this continuous physical presence and continuous residence requirements for each country. And so but if you or anybody else are just curious to see if you could possibly qualify for TPS, feel free to contact us and we can evaluate that. And then here is a list of what I've compiled, the most recent TPS countries that are open. Most recently, the ones that are actually have been newly designated and then are also like accepting applications. For example, are the top ones, that is Venezuela, which is another country is Myanmar and Burma, and then Syria as well. The registration period is open as well. And so the specific dates for each country in which people have to meet those specific continuous residence and physical presence dates are listed on the table as well. But basically for Venezuela, Myanmar, and Syria, they are taking applications right now. The registration period is open. And so if you or anybody else that you know, and other students, staff, or faculty is from any of these designated countries and is curious about seeing if they can apply for TPS for the very first time, please refer them to us. And then some of the other countries that have been recently added and actually reopened for their registration period are, for example, Haiti, Yemen, and Somalia. These are countries that I believe have already had TPS, but they're actually reopened their registration period. And it was just announced in the last couple of weeks. And so the registration period is still to be determined. I believe they're going to post the Federal Registrar notice as well, but they have already been announced that they will be having upcoming registration periods. And so people who have never applied for TPS from these countries, Haiti, Yemen, and Somalia, will be able to do so again for the specific period that the registration is open. So once again, if you or anybody else that you know is curious about seeing if they qualify for TPS and are from these specific countries, please refer them to us, and we'll be more than happy to talk with them. And then the last topic that we want to talk about, a recent change in the Biden administration, is the naturalization civics test. Before, like in the end of the year, last year, there was this proposed new civics test that people who applied for citizenship and their applications would have to take a new proposed civic test during their interview. But now it has been confirmed that USCIS has reverted back to the 2008 version of the civics test, and so as of March of this year. And so applicants who filed their application for naturalization on or after December 1st of 2020, but before March 1st of 2021, will have the option to take either the 2020 civics test that was proposed or the 2008 civics test. But then all applicants filing after March 1st, we'll be taking the only civics test that will be offered, which is the 2008 version. And the 2008 version is definitely very doable, and the USCIS officer will ask up to 10 questions from the standard list of 100 test questions, but applicants only have to answer 6 questions to correctly pass the 2008 version. The prior version, the one that was withdrawn, the 2020 civics test, had many more questions that people needed to pass. And so definitely think this is a good change that was kept, that we kept the old version. So more people, will hopefully be able to pass their civics test successfully. And I also provided a link, which I can share in the chat at the end of the presentation, for people who want to, for example, applying to this for their citizenship application already and want to study the 100 civic test questions, or any other resources online as well to study for their test. And so that is all the content I believe that we had for today's presentation. But I also just wanted to also have my contact information again, and I can place it again in the chat. But basically, yeah, if you or anybody else that you know has a specific questions about anything that we talked about today, or an immigration related question, please feel free to contact us, and we'll be more than happy to discuss your options with you, with this person that they're referring. Like I said, we're here, we want to be a resource to the City College community and be able to help them in any way that we can.
Great, yeah, thank you so much, Leslie. And I think during this uncertain time, one thing I wanted to add is just that I feel cautiously optimistic that something more positive will happen with DACA soon. I just don't know what exactly it will be. I think that it sounds like immigration's plan is to publish a new rule through a different process that they think will do better when challenged in court. And so I don't know when they might do that, hopefully very soon. But I think that's been their intention all along since the new president took office. So hopefully this negative decision that came out last Friday will move them faster along that path towards putting a new rule in place that hopefully will be just do better in the courts when challenged in the courts. And again, I think that the thing to keep an eye on in terms of congressional action is, I think the only way realistically that something positive would happen for DACA and for Dreamers through Congress in the next couple months would be if the Democrats are able to include language about Dreamers and TPS recipients in what they call the budget reconciliation bill, where Congress will pass its budget and then put immigration language in there, basically like DREAM Act type language that could then be passed without votes from both parties. They might be able to pass it with only votes from the Democratic Party. And so those are two things to keep an eye on, in addition to the actual appeal for the current lawsuit. So, Leslie and I will be following this very closely, and we don't be shy. If you've already spoken with us before, or if you might be speaking with us for the first time, just send us an email or a text, and we're happy to kind of keep you posted on the latest news around DACA.
Yes, thank you, Justin, for all that great information. I posted some additional contact information, for example, a link on how to make appointments online as well. But whichever way that you want to contact us best, whether it's text, call, email, or through the making an appointment online, feel free to contact us in whichever method is best for you. But yeah, definitely, whether it's any big or small questions, a full consultation, which is a small question, feel free to contact us. We definitely want to be available to all students, staff, and faculty at City College. So if nobody has any other questions.
I just wanted to say again, thank you, Leslie and Justin. I think I always learn a lot from your sessions, and I hope this is useful for the students who are here. Again, for the students, if you have any questions, they're super helpful. Just make an appointment with them. Even if you have, like Leslie mentioned, questions about your family members, that's also open. And I am just so thankful that we have you here to support our students.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you for all your efforts and work as well. And it's a group effort, this collaboration to provide these services to students, staff, and faculty.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jacqueline. Yeah, it's been great working with you. We're looking forward to continuing this work, and yeah, Leslie and I are here to help, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for attending. And if you have any other questions, or also for like a copy of the recording, feel free to contact us, contact me, Jacqueline. And yeah, and we'll see you at maybe like next month's legal Q&A, which will be sending the information for that shortly. All right, thank you, everybody. Hope you have a good rest of your afternoon. Bye.